can start without slide.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Literally, you don't need to.
Yeah, when they come put it on the slides. Good morning. And I'm really happy to be here. I'm very grateful to everybody for attending this lecture. And I think that the BACC has given me a great chance to present our acupuncture work with not only acupuncture but Chinese medicine work with the children. And we see together how important maybe to work with children before things get too messy. That's the idea. And I'd like to apologize for my English, so if it's too bad, just stop me and say, please say it again. Okay? So, well, first time I was in China, it was 1983, that means 34 years ago. That's a long time ago. I was young, and in China there was no Coca-Cola and no taxis, besides some just outside the Beijing hotel. So it was quite different, but there were all doctors who taught me a lot, really a lot, and to whom, of course, I will always be very grateful. And to them, I already asked at that time about Shen, Kun, Po, because you may have seen I'm a psychiatrist and a psychotherapy, so that's my main field. And first book I published is Shen in 2002, so really that's what I care mostly for. And well, as acupuncturists, we do know very well that physical and mental, emotional, psychic suffering is just different manifestation of a qi disharmony. So, and we all know that suffering and pain, mental and physical pain, is part of this world. This is not paradise, so pain is part of our world. But at the same time, we try to do our best to, well, when it becomes too invading or too destructive, so we try to do something about it. And from a Chinese point of view, we know that qi, for instance, instead of flowing smoothly, can somehow slow down, become muddy, and we call it dampness or phlegm. It's just a quality of qi. It's not something from outside, of course. Or qi can lose its root and explode upwards. It's kind of an agitated and dispersing and consuming fire and so on. Okay? So all these are the patterns that we study, that we know, and we give them names and labels, but what we understand really is what qi underneath is and the quality and what happens to make a mess of it. And so, and all these imbalances, disharmonies can manifest either in pain or gastric disorders, or headaches, or gynecological disorders, or anxiety, or depression, or whatever. But they're all manifestations of some kind of disorder, of qi disorder. And these disorders do not appear all at once, of course. Okay, there is time in which they develop themselves. And so this is a very good reason to treat children, so that we make somehow a very good investment, because treating children is really easy, as we'll see, or maybe you know already. And so we achieve a lot with a small effort. And this is also why treating children is so gratifying. It works well. Diagnosis is much easier compared to diagnosis in an adult, where just there was not enough time to make a mess of, all the patterns and disorders. And children respond fast. So this is really the basis, and we'll see specifically how to look at hyperactive children, how to interpret the specific disorder of the chi again, and how to relate to it. But in order to understand these troubles, of course, it's important to go back to some aspects of physiology, and because, of course, physiology is human physiology, but there are some aspects which are specific for children. So we'll see what quality of chi belongs to childhood. And this is important for diagnosis and for treatment and everything. So I have also put together a video, a 15 minutes video from our work at the children clinic. So to show you what we do, how to use needles, how easy it is, and with different children, different ages, and different personalities, of course. And during the video, I'll say a few things about our work and about acupuncture in children, of course. I don't know if you have handouts. No. Anyway, if you need them, you can write to me, and all the slides that will be projected, I can send them to you, okay? Or I don't know, maybe they appear on the site, on the website, I don't know. And one thing about this, with the video, please do not film nor take pictures of it, because I have all the permissions, of course, but since there are children, I prefer for it not to go around.
This is your stick, isn't it, Elisa? This is just the laptop.
No?
No, is this your stick?
Yes. Ah, okay, sorry, I thought I was going to look at it. Okay, I start saying something about children and chi anyway. Okay, pediatrics does exist in Chinese medicine as a specialty, as you know. It does have the same physiology, physiopathology, semiotics, and diagnostic criteria, of course, but it has also some specific aspects.
I'm just going to find somebody.
Okay, what is important is that human beings are chi in different densities. So emotions, intelligence, but also muscles, skin, bones, ji, shen. They, as we know, they're all chi in different forms and densities. So the characteristic of chi is that it moves. If it doesn't move, we are dead. So it moves continually, endlessly. And that means that it circulates without stopping through our qing luo net, through the channels, but also it moves through time, so it changes in time. And that means that the quality of our qi changes in time. And the quality of the qi in childhood corresponds to the beginning of the cycle, so to spring, to dawn, to the young rising from yin. So the quality is quite specific. It's very, very powerful because it's got inside all the potentiality of what's going to develop during the cycle. So this strength, this power, has also a quality of spring, of wind, changing fast. And that is what we have to take into account when we look at a child or treat a child, because the disease can change really fast, better or worse. And this quality is really powerful, and that's another thing we have to keep in mind. At the same time, children are delicate. When we come into this world, we are delicate. Our qi is fragile. The two jing met, but what the qi that makes our personality is not consolidated yet. And don't never stick. Do you think that?
No, we're going to. Did you go another one?
Yep. Okay. I used them yesterday, so it should work. So the qi is frail, not consolidated. And this is mentioned in all the pediatric texts in a few sentences. You know, Chinese make these very short sentences, generally 4 characters. They prefer that classically, that form. But anyway, one is Zangfu are soft and tender, and by Zangfu we know that we mean functions. And so if functions are still tender, that means they still have to consolidate and develop. And same thing is qi chudao. The qi easily loses its way. So that means that the jing luo net is not yet consolidated again. So that gives us the idea of how fragile the qi is still in a child. And we all know about it. All pediatricians know, how much care one has to take. And a very important point is spleen is not sufficient. You find it in any text.
Do you have it on another stick?
A third one? No.
Well, not another stick, but could you put it on that? Have you got it on a laptop?
No.
You haven't?
No, I don't have my laptop.
Okay, let me see if I can check it on another computer, okay?
Okay, fine.
I'll be back as soon as I can.
Well, I'm sure the second one I gave it to you. I had another lecture yesterday and it worked.
Word fine?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to want to see it. Bear with me a second.
Okay. No, don't worry. It's okay like this. So, spleen is insufficient in butsu and xiao pi butsu. So, and that doesn't mean that it's insufficient in an absolute sense, but insufficient because sometimes, because the need is so high, the child, the baby, grows really, really fast, we know, physically and mentally and relationally, so they need a lot of qi, middle jiao qi. By spleen, we mean middle jiao, post-heaven qi, and so they need a lot of qi. And so the spleen, or spleen stomach, work at the limit. And so what we do when treating a child, most of the time is anyway, tonifying, reinforcing middle jiao, this post-heaven qi. And at the same time, something else which is butsu, not sufficient, is yin, but again, not in absolute way, but because comparing yin and yang, as we saw, yang is much stronger because it's growing, it's rising up from the yin, it's springtime, so it's a very young time. So compared to that, yin is not sufficient. Okay, so the sentence is only half of it because we have this concise way of saying things. And what does this mean? That another sentence is, liver often has an excess, meaning that, of course, being so powerful, if I have disharmony, you know, the first one, that the easiest one, kind of almost physiologically, is to have a too strong liver, meaning really the qi energy of spring. And what does spring do? In the 5 elements, transforms into summer, and so into heat. And so one of the most common pathologies or patterns is heat or fire in children. We find it very, very easily. Well, let's say, for instance, tongue in children. The tongue body, if you find some cracks or a swollen tongue or anything in the body which is different, then it's more serious than in an adult. Okay, because in adults, if I see cracks or indentation or teeth marks, okay, it's not good, but it's not so terrible. Okay, but if I see it in a child, well, I do worry because they had not enough time to develop that. So if they do have it, it means that something strong is mining their health. While if I see a red tongue or a red tip, okay, it's not good, but I don't worry so much because it's, again, not physiological, but in the nature of children to have this heat developing very easily. Okay? So we see later on how heat manifests and what its role in hyperactive children, of course. So we have a couple more sentences which are the illness occurs easily, it progresses and changes rapidly, which is what we said before. So that very easily it can go worse or better because of this quality of the qi. And the last one says the Zangfu spirit is pure. Health is easily and rapidly recovered. Again, for reason of this quality of the qi being so powerful and rapidly changing, but also because the qi is pure qing, and qing is pure because it's closer to the original qi. Again, not enough time to make it dirty, let's say. And so that's why treating children is really good. We have so many chances to to be able to do something for them. And yes, well, you see in the video, yeah, it's really nice. So anyway, but this idea of how to approach their nature is really important, because then we can make a diagnosis and also a prognosis and a line of treatment in a more, I'd say, focused way. Okay, now then what we do is we have a clinic once a week since 12 years, actually 14 because there were 2 more years when we had a school, but this Xiao Xiao is called, is active since 2005, and there is an article, if you want to know more about it, on JCM in February, I think, but I don't think it's the last issue, maybe the one before. So if any of you is interested, please just write to me, and on my website all the previous articles are published, and part of the book that you can find of pediatrics, and so you have a lot of material there, but not this last article because they asked me not to publish it, not yet, but I'm allowed to give it to anybody, so if you write to me, then you have it. And so it's a bit more specific on our work. And do many of you work with children already? That's good. Yeah, then we have time maybe the next slot to exchange experiences, and because that's also nice about working together and meeting, and we are not so many, so we can really do it. It'd be nice. So anyway, how we work is to have this place once per week, and if you can see the video later, I say something more about it, but by now, the important thing is that we have seen up to now 335 children, and for a total of, I have it, 2,355 treatments. Only this 12 years, so this is not, yeah, but 2 years, and this is not my private practice, but I don't have any more private practice with children, because I prefer to have all of them on Monday, and this works also. It has pilot projects which are either for free or very low fee, so it's a nice thing. I like it very much, and it's also a training center, so we accept 4 or 5 trainees for a few times, 5 or 10 or 15, and at the end, if they like, they become part of a group. And so we are a team working together, which is also very nice, because that's what allows us to do some research and to have also all this teaching also to parents. Okay, we teach parents the pediatric tweener. Do you know about it? Okay, pediatric tweener is the form of a tweener which is much easier than adult tweener, much easier. And let's say that acupuncturist can learn it in 2 days, or a shiatsu practitioner, or whoever knows about TCM, and because the technique is very simple, but at the same time they have different localization, different lines and points specific for children, and it is used in China and in hospitals, and so it's part of traditional Chinese medicine. It's very settled. We have books and everything, and departments that use it. And the idea is that we use either pediatric tweener or acupuncture, most of the time both of them. And we do teach parents a sequence specific for their child so that they can apply it at home. And that helps a lot because they can't come to the clinic every day or every other day like in China. And so that helps, you know, the success. And also helps parents, I think, because it gives them a tool and they feel more secure and they can do something about their children, you know. And
Do you know which presentation it is? Obviously you do.
let's see. Okay, so no, sorry. Okay, this one is the one, and then we'll see the movie later. Thank you.
It's in front of the laptop's in front of the jet.
Oh, in front, yeah.
Well, I can see them.
Just testing.
So,
I'll move it over some. The coffee cups as well.
so that's my website, and from there you can. Now then what? So to go on.
Click that. I will take it over that one.
Okay.
Okay. To move the pitch up just to the side a little bit. Thanks.
Okay, so we said this. We said all this. Okay, this is about Xiao Xiao. But anyway, a few things about Xiao Xiao I repeat in the video. Okay, so I don't stay here too long. The other thing we do in this clinic is to collect data in a very, well, I'd say, rather good way, which are not useful for statistical goals, because of course there is no way of having a statistical use for them. But they're very, very useful for ourselves and for colleagues, okay, to know what we are doing, what is wrong with it, what are the obstacles, what is not working, and maybe what is working as well. And so we have charts, and then we have an Excel program with not only the reason why the main request of the child, but also the main items. So appetite, sleep, stools, and behavior for each of them at the beginning and at the end. And then, of course, Chinese diagnosis and what we do when we use needles or moxa or tuina and other traditional collateral methods, because that's what we use. We don't use modern contemporary techniques like laser or whatever, but we do use sometimes plum blossom and moxa and a lot of moxa, you see, and cupping sometimes, but mainly acupuncture, tuina, and moxa, I'd say. Okay, that's the main thing. Then we see, according to patterns and so on, what to do when we do it. So, and at the end of the treatment, we ask parents to fill a questionnaire to know how they felt in the clinic and the results, and if they went on applying Tuina at home, and any suggestion and any comments they want to give us. Because I mean, really, the important thing of working in this way is to add knowledge, because we are in a different situation from China. So when I went to China, I went in a department, pediatric department, for 3 times different years, and it was very, very useful. But at the same time, we are in another condition, so we needed to have knowledge about what we do and our situation. So anyway, and another thing we do is a follow-up. So after 6 months, and should be also after 12 months, but that's not all. We don't do it all the time. We see how kids are. And I think this about time and the effect of our work in time is also a very important thing to know. Okay.
Do they come for a set number of weeks?
They come, okay, it varies, okay, because what we do is individual, so we don't have a protocol, so it depends. But let's say that normally they come once a week for maybe 4 times, and then every 2 weeks. At the beginning, we had a pilot study for respiratory diseases, so for children who had this recurrent winter disorders, respiratory disorders. So they had many antibiotics, many cycles on antibiotics, and so that was for free. But actually it was that they paid first, second, third, and 4th time, and then we gave back the money 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time. So that was a good idea, because in this way it was to 0, but at the same time, you know, they felt compelled to come. And that was a good thing for children and also for us, because otherwise it's a waste of time and energy, and it doesn't help anybody really. So that was a good thing. And so that's to say that normally, and then later on, if you like, I have some data, and any of you that wants to have them can write it to me. But the number of sessions normally is. Okay, 28% is 3-4 sessions, and then 5-10 sessions is 57%. Okay, so normally it's like that. And then we have more than 10 sessions, but that includes also children that come maybe 1 year and then they come back again. Okay, and that's 12%. Sorry, 14%. So,
Is that over a month? Sorry, 3-4 sessions over a month or a week?
well, it depends. At the beginning we do it, normally we do it once per week, and then maybe every other week, and then once per month, but I mean, it's not fixed. Okay. It was only in that case of the 8 times, that was first month, one per week, and then 2 weeks, I think 3 weeks, and then one follow-up after 2 months or something like that. So, okay, as you see, these are the normal problems that any pediatrician or any parent can meet with their children. And I'd say that the nice point for us is prevention, because when we know a child, we can say what to be careful about, because prevention is not something specific, okay? Because otherwise it's too much. Nobody could stay, well, nobody, almost nobody can, you know, really follow all the rules that one should say. So we see, maybe a child needs more rest, okay? Resting and not consuming cheese is more important for that child. So we have to give advice or put the attention on not exciting this child too much. For another child, not having dairy and milk is more important because of phlegm. And so we focus our attention on that. And intervention means also that we teach a sequence to the parents, and in cases in which the child may go through more dangerous situations, let's say immunization or quarreling of the parents or going to school or anything that needs, more more support. And so depending on the pattern, and we'll see the pattern later, it can be full or empty. Depending on that, we can teach a different sequence between up. Okay. Now, about acupuncture. About acupuncture, so I saw that most of you do use it already, and so you know that there are no specific contraindications, and it can be used also with babies and small children. We have just to be careful that, as we said before, the system, the chi, is not stabilized yet. So it's more, fragile, and we have to be careful. But that's the only attention. And as I said before, treating children is really easy because of the reasons we said before, and fast and very rewarding. So it's a pleasure. To treat children is really a pleasure. And again, because diagnosis is easier, so time has not been enough to make a mess about patterns, and the children's chi responds so well, so quickly, so promptly. Now, of course, needle technique must be good, but this for all of us in any case. And so the insertion should be painless, and we should get to the chi and reach the chi, obtain the chi, or whatever, the chi, and know when we do it. I think this is important with children because it is always important, but with children particularly because sometimes they kind of be tricky with you, and they say yes or no, and and they kind of challenge you. And if you know, they feel more secure. It's important. Okay, it's important because your security, your determination, or your solidity is something that anchors them, and it's precious. And mainly with hyperactive children, but with all of them actually. So, and talking about determination, I think that what we use with children, but generally speaking with acupuncture and probably in life, is flexibility, softness, okay, like going around the obstacles like wood, but at the same time being very determined. So our je, our yi must be unified, as they say, solid, rooted, concentrated. And we'll see later what classics say about it, about the act of acupuncture, how we use it, and the quality of that space. But this is something with children is really important, and maybe even more with parents, because the problem is not with children, it's with parents. I don't know if you share this, working with them, but yeah, that's more tiring. And we have to find a way, because I mean, there must be an alliance. Okay, the parent cannot be against us. So we have to find a way, and if one is used to work with adults, in that situation has not one person in front, so it's not one-to-one relationship, but at least 2 or 3 people to interact with. So that's different, and that's what probably is kind of more difficult, really, because treating children by itself is not. Okay. So needles, I usually use 1-2 needles, or maybe even longer, so not particularly short needles. And you see the video, and not particularly thin, so 0.16, but generally speaking is 0.25, 22, 25. Okay, so yeah, thin needles, but not so thin. And no guided tubes, because I have the idea that I can feel and perceive the chi in a better way without guided tube, even in the insertion. And okay, the number of points is lower, as you know, much lower than in adults. And the younger the child, the lower the number of needles. So maybe in a baby I can use 1 or 2 points, and maybe a bit more the older the child is. And so as the time of insertion is much shorter than in adults. So in small children, babies and small children, we insert the needle and withdraw it. Okay, so we don't retain the needle, but we still reach the chi and do something with it. Okay, it's not in out. There is something happening with my needle and the chi. Because what happens is, what am I doing with the needle? I'm like this I medium. There is the heaven chi, okay, infinite, the earth chi, infinite, and human chi, disorder, mess. So the 2 of them have to meet in order to make some order in this. And that's what I'm doing with my needle. Okay, it's not me who is bringing health. Otherwise, poor patients. I'm just trying to be helpful. And so with my needle, that's what I'm doing. And that's why I have to reach the chi and be there, okay, and feel it. So that when this happens in a small baby, you don't need much more, because they're so strong, so powerful. Their chi is so powerful. So you put the needle, do something, and come out. When they're a bit older, you can leave. We usually leave needles, but maybe 5 minutes. So I don't think that we ever leave them for 20 minutes. It's not needed, and it'd be too long for a child. But they stay there with their needles anyway. And so now I'd like to go back to the steps. So,
Sorry, just interrupt. How do you know how long is long enough?
Well, it's like in an adult. How do you know?
So do you take their pulses and kind of work in that way, or?
Yeah, well, it's difficult to say. I think you have a feeling because of the child, how you work. But at the beginning, you do it short anyway. And we go back with the relation, okay? Because also in the beginning you kind of find a possibility. But we'll go back to this, okay?
So, question for Matt. How do you handle with your fear of needles? So you mentioned the word needles. Some children or maybe grown-ups are nervous.
Fear?
Fear around.
Yes, so I talk about this also in the relation, okay? Because this is a very good question, and yes, it's important. I just wanted to finish with the technique, and then we go into all this because it's the main field actually. So the technique I follow, of course, what they do in China, and specifically also what Julian Scott taught. And you all know Julian Scott. He is a great acupuncturist. He's the one who worked mostly in the West with children, and he is a great teacher, and I'm always grateful to him because he also helped us at the beginning in 2002 with our clinic, and somehow, besides teaching, gave a courage to start such a project. And because it's a bit different, you know, to treat children here and there, and to have really a children clinic, somehow inside feels a bit different. Anyway, so thanks to Julian Scott, and what he says is, insert the needle with, you know, of course, gentle but precise. And he also says, if you're not in the really the right point, it doesn't matter so much, because again, children's chi is so powerful that you know, if you make a little bit of mistake, it doesn't matter. Anyway, try to be precise, and then you let go of the needle, which is something that also we do also in adults, but in children particularly, because there may be some tension of the muscle, so you leave your needle and let the tissues adjust. Okay? Then you look for the surge for the chi, look for the chi, reach it, and then you do your stimulation, whatever, reinforcing, sending the chi, reducing, whatever, move, expel. And then either we retain the needles or we do not. And then there is the withdrawal of needle, which is a very important time, I think. Okay, this point, sometimes, I don't know here, but in Italy, some acupuncturists, it's terrible, they have different kind of little rooms, okay, very small ones, and they have the needles taken out by an assistant who is not an acupuncturist, the secretary maybe, you know, and I feel that this is terrible. Anyway, so this last point is really important because it's kind of giving a final signal to that moment and to the chi, of course. And and then about reinforcing and reducing, of course, there are different ways. And I don't think there is one better than another. And, you know, classics give different ways of tonifying and reducing. And so they don't give different places for points. So if they do give different ways of tonifying and reducing, that means that actually there's not only one which is the right one. So it depends on our personality, the teachers we met, who we liked, and so you'll see in the video how I do it. But that doesn't mean that's the best way, like with guide tubes. I'm not saying that's the best way, I'm telling you what I do and what we do. Okay? So, but in any case, the idea is, let's see here, okay, now here. So the main idea is this of being concentrated about yi and zhi, and what they say, rectify shen. Okay, rectify is zhen, like zhen qi, xie qi and zhen qi. So to make it right, and unify jing, because again, a bad thing is dispersing, a good thing is unifying. So that's the main point, really. At the beginning, it's like with adults, but that's really what we should do. And what about the child? Now, child. And what's his name? The one in San Diego. Well, it will come to my mind. Anyway, he's a very good acupuncturist and a very nice man, and he treats a lot of children, and he does a lot of shonin and more Japanese acupuncture, and he distracts them with a lot of theater, and he has all the tattoos, and he's a nice guy. But what I think is that actually bring their attention on what is happening, because it's something so special and so important, and you know, the space, this special space where you can feel the chi, it's not something that we have every day, you know. So, and yes, and human beings are curious. They like new experiences, and children even more. So, you know, it's special for them. It's something interesting, and I like this of giving them a different space. And so I can ask her, you know, tell me when it does like that, or I can talk about the fish biting or whatever. And anyway, we are there. We are not somewhere else, and then this happens, you know, on one side. And yes, you see in the video, we can also leave it, let the children touch the handle of the needle. No problem, no problem. It's a nice stimulation. Okay. We have to finish at 11, right? And then break. Okay, so we go back to the relationship, which is something quite central. And in the relationship, I think the first thing is, beside our attitude, which is, as we said, softness and flexibility, but also determination. Our point is respect. Okay, we have another person in front of us, an adult or a child, and we recognize it. So respect means to recognize you are an individual and you have my attention and my respect. And that is also with babies. Okay, babies are not things. And so when I ask to parents about their story, really the baby is there. So my look is also at the baby. That's what I was saying before, because it's different. We have a different interaction. And so he or she is inside the field of chi, okay? And of course, the older a child is, the more the chi is evident for everybody, so the interaction is there. So I need the permission, not only from parents, of course, that's legally also I need it, but from a child. And to get there, sometimes I have to mediate. So that means to see together what we can do. And what we can do if a child has fear is, first of all, take the fear seriously. It can be enough to courage to get acupuncture. Not maybe when there are maybe 4, 5, something like that. Also because they know they have some background thoughts from a family, and maybe sometimes somebody said, "Oh, wow, you're going to have needles," and you know, things like that. So we can arrange things. We can say, well, let's try with one needle, and if it's okay, then we go on. Otherwise, no. And then as soon as you say stop, I stop, and of course I stop. And then we can also see together which points, because sometimes children are afraid of points I don't know, on the skull, for instance, because they think I found out they have the image of going into the brain, so I have to explain everything. But anyway, if they're afraid, we start from somewhere else, or we don't do them. I mean, acupuncture is so rich that we can change points. It doesn't matter. You know, there are points that have the same effect, more or less. So, and or on the tummy. Some children, they don't like on the tummy because it's too private. And so we start from our points, and then we can go to the other ones later on. And the important thing is that we build a trust situation in which to develop a collaboration. Also, sometimes it happened that they did not want needles, and so I used plum blossom. Maybe if we have a time we can see the case later on. Anyway, plum blossom on the same points, and then after 2, 3, 4 times, they accepted needles. So, you know, that's something that we can deal with. But the important thing is this of having this as one father said once, bubble space. So a special space in which we are doing something special. And so sometimes parents have to be just a little bit on the side. Sometimes we don't interfere and perfect. Sometimes we have to be careful so that they don't interfere too much. But anyway, there will be time, and they, you know, it's okay in any case. Okay, we stop now, and because I know we are very, we're not Italian, so I try to be Swiss, and we start again at 11:30. Okay, thank you.